Hi everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alex and in this episode I'll be reviewing Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. First things first, I gotta be honest, even though I love fighting games, I haven't played the Virtua Fighter series that much. I remember that I used to play Virtua Fighter 2 in the arcades back in the 90s and that I was really impressed with Shun-Di's drunken boxing, but with the eclipse of the arcades era I kind of lost track of the Virtua Fighter games, being only limited to learn news about the series through the pages of video game magazines or later through the internet. At some point I decided to rediscover the series by trying out the latest installment, which at that time was Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, which is a digital-only updated version of Virtua Fighter 5 that includes some extra costumes and an extra character, Taka Arashi, the Japanese sumo wrestler of the series. So here we go.
The story takes place after the fourth game. We find out that Kagemaru and Shun-Di were the two finalists of the tournament organized by the evil organization called Judgment 6, or just J6. The fight between Kagemaru and Shun-Di is interrupted by the intrusion of Dural. Dural was in fact Kagemaru's mother Tsukikage, who was turned into an android by J6 to be their ultimate weapon for world domination. Kagemaru fails to reach out to his mother and is forced to kill her, but upon the inspection of the body he found out that this Dural wasn't his mother, which led him to believe that she was still being captive and that he still had a chance to save and restore her. J6 then proceeds and captures Vanessa in order to make her the next Dural. With an inside help, Vanessa manages to escape, but not before J6 captures her combat data. Using Vanessa's combat data, J6 creates the next Dural and announces the 5th World Fighting Tournament in order to test their new weapon and to discover the traitor who allowed Vanessa to escape. Amongst the fighters who participate in the tournament is none other than Kagemaru, who is there in another attempt to save his mother and put an end to Judgment 6 once and for all. Each character in the game has their own storyline, of course, that expands the main story, which actually is not bad at all. Unfortunately, the story presentation is completely absent from Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. There is no cinematic intro, no character endings, nothing. The only way you can find out something about the lore of the series is through the booklet of the physical copy and doing some research on the internet. The second was my only option since Final Showdown is only out in a digital format.
Now this might not be an issue to many players, but it is to me. I would appreciate some sort of story elements within the game itself, at least character bios or something.
Moving on to the graphics, which look really good. I dare to say that I like the graphics in Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown better than in Tekken Tag 2 and MK9, particularly the character models that look a bit more realistic and better proportionate than in those two games. The character costumes are similar to Tekken and Street Fighter, from karate, ninja and kung fu uniforms to casual street clothes. There's a good amount and variety of items to customize your character in the terminal, but you have to download and install the customization packs for each character separately. Each customization item comes in several preset colors. Personally, I prefer to adjust the colors for the items by myself, like in the Soul Calibur series, and I'd like a few more customization items. You also need to choose the type of costume that you want to create in order to get access to certain items. This system makes the customization possibilities a bit limited. Once you're done creating a costume, you can save it and name it any way you like, and you can make several costumes for each character. The customization section is truly the most dangerous trap for any gamer. You know that you will spend hours in here. The stages look incredible, and there's a good variety of locations like temples and rivers. One thing that I hate though is when a part of the stage is in front of the camera and becomes see-through. This kind of breaks the illusion and spoils the immersion for me. I'd rather if these objects like fences and walls become completely invisible to the player in these occasions.
This is something that I've noticed happening in all the 3D games, so I'll give it a slug because other than that, I love the graphics in this game.
Let's talk gameplay. This is a 3D fighting game very similar to Soul Calibur. You can move in any direction across the stage. The stages have limits and you can throw your opponent out of the ring, which will automatically make you the winner of the round, even if you had less health. You also need to be careful not to fall out of the ring yourself. The Virtua Fighter games have the simplest button system in any fighting game that I've ever played. There are only 3 buttons: the punch, the kick and the guard. Well, and of course the directional buttons. By inputting different sequences of buttons will allow you to execute different types of attacks, throws and signature moves. At first, it seemed to me like the fighting system is very simple and there aren't enough moves to make it interesting. I couldn't be more wrong. The more I got into the game, the more I discovered how complex it is, how different each character feels, and what a great moveset they all have.
The characters that I've enjoyed playing as the most are the following.
I really like Shundi's crazy drunken boxing style and the fact that he's basically a grandpa kicking everyone's ass. It's just so funny playing as him. He's a bit hard to master with all the transitions that he has, but it's very rewarding if you do so. Making him drink more alcohol will unlock more moves. Shundi is one of the characters in the game that is definitely meant for more advanced players. You can customize him to look like Pai Mei from Kill Bill. Shundi is the dude. Kagemaru. This guy is fast and has a nice set of combos that are relatively easy to remember and execute. And he's a motherfucking ninja. Do I need to say more? Akira Yuki. Although he's Japanese, his fighting style is based on Baji Chuan, a Chinese kung fu style. I like his classic karateka design and his solid and straightforward techniques. I also enjoyed playing as Sarah. I like the visual aspect of her fighting style. It's very flashy with great emphasis on kicks. Pai-chan is another favorite. She has a great arsenal of fluid combos that can be very confusing for the opponent. I'd maybe compare her to Xiao Yu and Jun Kazama from the Tekken series. Fast, deceptive and effective. Lastly, I enjoyed playing as Taka Arashi. The development team has stated that it was quite challenging to include Taka Arashi in the roster due to his size. Particularly, there were difficulties with his jumping moves. Honestly, I don't know how that's an issue. We've had Kuma and Jack in the Tekken series for ages without any issues. But anyway, this big guy is quite fun to play as, and I enjoyed him more than Ganryu from the Tekken series. My favorite move of his is a throw, when he grabs and fucks the opponent. This shit's funny. I think Taka Arashi should always be included in the series.
To be honest, the whole roster is great, and what I like about it is that there are no filler characters. Each one of them is different and adds something special to the table. Like, there's a monkey and a praying mantis styles that are rare to find in other fighting games.
There aren't many modes to play here. This game is all about the classic arcade feeling. The single player mode has the classic arcade, score attack, license challenge and special sparring. In the arcade mode, you fight through several opponents until you face the final boss, Akira Yuki, who is considered to be the mascot of the series. After you beat Yuki, you will face Dural in the bonus stage. It doesn't really matter whether you win or lose to Dural, it will still be game over. You just watch the end credits and then do everything all over again. There's nothing to unlock here if you pass the game. No extra characters or any other content, which is a little disappointing. You don't feel rewarded in any way. I would personally like if they had added some extra unlockable characters or customization items, maybe an extra stage or something. Score attack is basically just like the arcade, and license challenge is a series of challenges. Special sparring is a trap for you to get the DLC, as it is not playable without it. You can also play against the second player, and of course there is an online mode too, giving the game a more competitive nature and further enhancing that arcade feeling. You can practice the moves in the dojo. Here you can find tutorials, command training and free training. The music in Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown is actually really good. The tracks vary from traditional Japanese and Chinese melodies mixed with jazz to electronic and metal. It's a really great mix of sounds. There is also a list of music from the previous games that you can choose from the settings and have it play in the background instead of the default music. I really appreciate this in this game, unlike the Tekken Tag 2, where the music from the previous games is paid DLC, that on top of that is incomplete with some tracks missing. So big plus to Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown in the sound department.
So overall, I'll say that I liked this game. I like the gameplay, the graphics and the character design, and I'm a sucker for character customization. This game can be a blast playing it with friends. Although I gotta say that the complete absence of the game's story within the game itself was a big letdown and made the game feel smaller and incomplete to me. As I've mentioned, I had to search the internet to find some lore on it. So now that you watched this review, it's really up to you if you want to give Virtua Fighter 5 a go. If you do, I suggest you get the Final Showdown version of this game. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed my video and have already pressed the like button and subscribed to support my channel. Check out my other videos and see you next time!